All right, people, welcome back. The winter break is sort of almost over. We are officially a week into January at this point, and as all of you who have been keeping up with us on the Talkin TV podcast up to this point know, January is always the month when we hit our year-end list. Everyone is always trying to rush them out in December, but here we do them in January because it's not exactly like there's a whole lot of great new movies to be talking about in January. Anyways, as that is, welcome back. This is our 6th season premiere, and it's absolutely wild that we've been around this long, that like this is 6 seasons for us, especially since we said, you know, our long running mantra is always 12 seasons in a short film. So we've got some returning faces, we've got some new faces here as well. You know, I pulled out all the stops for the podcast on this one, met a lot of people this past year. So joining us first and foremost, he was on last year's top 10 list, Dustin the Duster Mason. Dustin, happy to have you back for yet another of our favorite thing to do on the internet, which is to rank stuff. How you doing, dude? You excited for this top 10 list?
Yeah, I like doing the best of the year list. Hopefully we could do this every year because I just like the consistency in that. I'm kind of mad I wasn't on for the first 2 years for the decade, but I'm fine.
Don't worry. We got you on eventually, and that's what matters. And then the first of 3 newcomers that we have to the podcast, Mr. I like I said, I haven't come up with nicknames for you guys yet, so I'll work on that as well. But these are all guys that I've met in school. As I've come to collectively refer to these 3. These are my movie nerd mafia, as I basically call it in school. I feel like that's the best description for us. First off, Mr. Jeremy Nunez. Jeremy, happy to have you here. I don't know if you've like been on the YouTubes before, if you've had like a crazy nickname for YouTube in the past, but happy to have you here, dude.
Hey, happy to be here, and happy to just let you know that I'm never coming back, so don't think of a nickname. I'll never come back. It's my one and only appearance. This is it. I'm Jeremy.
So this is the only time that people are ever going to see you on the podcast.
Only time. I wish my avatar was the yelling Pacino face from Heat. That used to be my avatar on Zoom.
Well, I mean, you could still do like the animated version of it, you know?
That's true. That's true. Yeah, that's right. Thank you for having me.
It's always an option. Oh, of course, anytime, dude. And then next to him, like I said, you won't be able to tell unless these guys turn on their cameras because you know they both kind of have the same one. There we go. That's slightly better, just so we can create some differentiation. But next to him, there's absolutely no confusion with these 2 names right here, Mr. Jeremiah O'Sullivan. Jeremiah, happy to have you here, dude.
Happy to be here, my friend. Happy to be here.
Yes.
I'm kind of last minute. Because I saw a lot of movies, but actually putting them in a 10. So I'm kind of honestly doing that right now.
Awesome.
So I got a top 8. Just got to fill 2 more in. Okay, now I'm on to 9.
Hopefully you have it.
Spoilers.
Hopefully you have it before the credits roll. And oh man, we already have Luke of Luke Reviews in the chat. The faceless men of Bravos are in town. I love it. This is great. And rounding it out, the last of my movie nerd mafia, Mr. Michael J. Alvarez. Mike, happy to have you here, dude.
What's up, man? How you doing? Happy to be here.
I am doing
same thing we always do.
Yes, I'm absolutely great. Like I said, I always look at this as just an extension of the conversation that we already have in school. Like I said, guys, I've gotten to know all of you pretty well over the last couple of months. Dustin, obviously, we've known each other for literally ever, and I'm excited to go over these top 10 lists with you guys on the season 6 kickoff of the Talkin TV podcast. Stay tuned. All right, gentlemen. So 2023 is over. We are officially into 2024. It's kind of crazy to say that we're already almost halfway through the decade of the 2020s. It's been a tumultuous decade. It's been a decade filled with a lot of change, a lot of new directions for Hollywood to go in, basically. So I wanted to kick this off before we actually got into the list as well. I'd like to do this whenever we kind of like recap the years in general, which is I wanted to get each of your guys' thoughts on the year of 2023, how it compares to the last couple of years, and what you guys thought of the overall movie selection that we had this year. I personally had more fun and enjoyed the movies that we got in 2023 overall, probably way more than we did coming off of the year of COVID, so no movies, the year where almost every movie went to streaming, and the years that we got some movies in theaters, and for the most part, they were kind of all underwhelming. So, Dustin, I'm going to start this off with you. You've been here before. You've let us know your thoughts on this before. What did you think of the year overall of 2023 when it came to movies?
it was underwhelming in a sense that like there was a lot of like good, solid movies from a lot of really good, accomplished filmmakers. I just thought I've seen better films that they've made, and I've seen better work. But not to say this was a god awful year, but it wasn't a great year or a stellar year in my opinion. I just think like the best movies of this year are going to be remembered appropriately, but I don't think they measure up specifically. The best movies of this year at least don't measure up to some of the best movies I thought of the last couple of years, but maybe time will tell.
All right,
otherwise.
Got it. Yeah, interesting. We're gonna shift direction just a little bit. So, Mike, we're gonna go to you next. What did you think overall of the year of 2023, and how do you think it measures up to some of the previous years that we've gotten so far in the 2020s?
Generally, I liked it a little bit more than the last couple of years. Going on to Justin's point, like you were saying, is like we got a lot of acclaimed directors doing a lot of work, and it wasn't the best stuff. I agree, but it was a lot of really, really solid stuff. So I just like the top end stuff. Maybe was over the last couple of years not as great, but I just felt there was a lot more stuff in the middle. Where I was like going constantly every few weeks. I'm like, oh, there's something good I really need to see. Whereas in the last couple of years, it felt like there was just like 4 or 5 big things I got to see, and then everything else I got to find on streaming and something like that. I don't know. It really felt like we were going back
The future.
to the way it should.
Yeah. It feels like the most normal year for sure,
Yeah.
like in a while.
Felt like a normal going back to the movies year.
Mhm.
Not like every movie needs to make a statement, every movie needs to save movies or something. It's just going to the movies to enjoy the movies again. So,
I would definitely agree with that, especially in the sense of where I feel like that really came for the holidays, right? When you saw movies like Wonka doing all of a sudden like really well in theaters. It's like, okay, so people are like actually going back to the movie theaters to watch like a fun, like carefree holiday movie, which I feel like in the last couple of years they would have just immediately stayed at home for. Jeremy, what was your take on 2023 as a year overall when it came to movies?
I kind of feel the same way. The movies just felt grown up, and not in a like pretentious way, but like it felt like there was a lot of variety in a very public way where it wasn't like very geared towards a certain sect. That happened more early in the year with your Guardians of the Galaxies and your Flashes and all that stuff. But as the year progressed, there was a lot of artists that we loved, come back and do like Dustin said and like Mike said, movies that aren't their best, but God damn, is a solid movie. For like, just is really good to see these titans of the industry come back and do stuff, and newer directors too. And not a lot of franchise stuff that was a little low key or taking things in a different direction, i.e., or Evil Dead Rise and all that stuff. So I thought it was just very eclectic year. I think just a lot of variety and nothing to complain about. I don't think there was any stinkers, like nothing for me that I was like, that was terrible. But yeah, I thought it was a very, very interesting movie year.
Yeah, the biggest thing for me is that, like Dustin said, pretty much a lot of really acclaimed, really well-known filmmakers coming out. Again, this is the year we got movies again from Nolan, Bradley Cooper, Emerald Fennell, Alexander Payne, Scorsese, Miyazaki, Ava DuVernay, Jonathan Glazer, the list goes. Michael Mann. Finally, for the first time in like almost a decade, we got Michael Mann back. Like David Fincher, Ridley Scott, the list
Emerald
just
Fennell.
the list, Greta Gerwig, the list just went on and on and on in terms of the amount of filmmakers that were just like waiting to put out their movies this year. Jeremiah, the last one before we get into our individual list, what did you think of 2023 overall as a year for movies in terms of how it compared to the last couple of years of COVID hell?
Well, to me, 2023 was a year where it seems like finally the audience kind of showed up, and it seems like there is a path to survival, even despite having the strikes and shit. Because, like, basically, this was the year where even the 7th Mission Impossible, like, didn't even do, like, it did less business than the 4th one. Like, so... And then the superhero, like, we don't know. Maybe this is like the beginning of the end of the dominance of the superhero movie. We'll see. But the pictures that did come out, especially at the end of the year, I mean, Michael, you and I, we did a double feature yesterday. That was phenomenal. And I haven't had a movie experience like that in many years. So to me, some of the films that came out in 2023 have become all-time classics. A couple. So
Which
I
ones
love
did you
this
guys
year.
see yesterday?
We saw The Zone of Interest,
Nice.
and All of Us Strangers.
Interesting. That's a wow. And talk about a double feature that like both ties itself well together while also like being two like tonally opposite movies. Like both very sad movies, but like in different ways.
No, we
did.
joked. We were like, one of these movies makes you feel okay about being human and alive, and the other, not so much.
Not so much. Not so much.
The one with
indeed.
Nazis, didn't make me feel great about being
Yeah,
alive.
probably not. Typically not. I feel like movies that are made about Nazis, unless they're Jojo Rabbit, don't tend to make you feel good in hindsight. But
Indy's punching them. Yeah.
Exactly. No, what I'll say about 2023, like I said, this was probably the year that I got back to like actually having fun with going to the movies, which is something that I really can't say I had for all of 2020 or 2021 or 2022. Like I actually found the joy again of going to the theater every weekend and watching what I watched, regardless of whether the movie itself was actually that good or not. And it was just the fact of I was able to like get that joy again, for which is something that I really hadn't had since 2019, and I wasn't sure if it was ever coming back. The other thing also, like I said, that pretty much everybody's already commented on is that with the exception of two movies, every single superhero movie that came out this year flopped. So to go off of your point, Jeremiah, as I still can't learn fucking StreamYard pointing directions. Yeah, like the superhero genre, which has pretty much dominated the box office, and pretty much like for the last couple of years, Hollywood was trying to essentially only give those types of movies to us.
I'm sorry, I just remembered a superhero movie should be on my top 10, so I gotta just adjust.
Just adjust it real quick. But
there he goes. He got his 10. He got it.
Yeah, he got his 10. He got it. He knew we were gonna get it eventually by the time we started. All right, we're good. But yeah, so I guess just I guess in a weird way, like everyone was freaking out, losing their minds. It's like, oh no, it feels like every superhero movie is flopping. But like my whole thing, right, is the superhero fatigue that everybody talked about for years that kind of really, it was there, but not really while Marvel was in its heyday. And now that Marvel's better days have kind of gone the way of the dodo, and pretty much everyone has kind of come to see the market overall quality. I feel like as a result, like I said, people are still looking for excuses to not stay in their houses the way that they were for all of COVID. And so as a result, they're going out to the theater and they're actively like seeking out like different and interesting movies. And I feel like that's why the fall season is usually almost always the most interesting part of the year movie wise for me. But I feel like that's why this fall we had such an interesting and different like variety of movies. And also it was the fact that people seemed interested in them. They seemed interested in going out and seeing them and talking about them and not just waiting for them to come to streaming. Like it felt like last year, it's like they had a decent amount of fall movies, but really, for the most part, nobody was really interested in them. Nobody was really interested in watching them. I feel like people didn't really become aware of them until they came to streaming. And so, like, you had incredible movies like Babylon and The Menu that, like, kind of didn't do so well when they came out in theaters. Versus now, I feel like, for the most part, pretty much every movie that's come out in the fall, with the exception of Aquaman 2, has done pretty well for the most part. So, with that being said, I've talked it up. So, oh no, Jeremy, we lost Jeremy for a second. He'll be back in a second, hopefully. But we're going to start. The way that we're going to do this today is we're going to do, what's it called? We're going to do a, there you are. We're going to do a roundtable style where we're going to each go through, each person is going to do their 10 through 6. If we have any common entries, we're going to talk about them. And then we will go from there to our 5 through 2s, and then eventually on to our number 1. So it's going to go this way. So the order is going to go Dustin, then Jeremy, then Jeremiah, then Mike, then me. So Dustin, starting off with you, what are your 10 through 6?
Before I get into my 10 through 6, I just want to say my 10 honorable mentions real quick. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
Across the Spider-Verse.
Across the Spider-Verse. The Flash, Dumb Money, Poor Things, How to Blow Up a Pipeline, The Kane Mutiny Court Martial, R.I.P. Lance Reddick and William Friedkin, Killers of the Flower Moon, Saltburn, Oppenheimer, and Tetris.
Yes.
Hell yeah. All right. And my number 10 is Please Don't Destroy, The Treasure of Foggy Mountain, which is an SNL type movie that was released on Peacock by Universal, if I'm not mistaken. And Lorne Michaels didn't produce it. It was Judd Apatow. But you could count this as a SNL kind of movie because these guys are writers on the show, and they're known for the last couple of seasons to do their like little 3-4 minute sketches that are very irreverent and very similar to the likes of The Lonely Island and Donald Glover's old comedy troupe, Derek Comedy. And they're like a more tolerable and likable version of Workaholics. And they knew how to do a movie. And I found this to be one of the most consistently funny R-rated comedies in a very long time. Number 9 is American Fiction, a directorial debut by Cord Jefferson, a guy I'm not sure if I like as a personality at all because he seems kind of douchey, but he is a talented writer and he knows how to direct and get good performances out of his well-cast actors. And it's a great showcase for Jeffrey Wright, who's absolutely fantastic, and his career has been building to get a part like this, and he nailed the hell out of it. And Sterling K. Brown is terrific. Great film. But I just wish that the climax was as satisfying as the rest of the film, which was really biting and poignant. But I'm kind of getting sick of a lot of movies saying, you know what, white people suck, don't they? Yeah, we know we suck. Can you move on already? Number 8 is perhaps Todd Haynes' best film, in my opinion. I still haven't seen Velvet Goldmine, but May December is a terrific Netflix film. I really enjoyed the performances here. There's an uneasiness to this movie that makes me prevents me from saying this is an amazing movie, but I don't think it's a comedy, by the way. This is not a comedy. It's a fucking tragedy with little... Every good movie should have little hints of humor in it, no matter how dramatic you are, unless you're like on purpose trying to be the most depressing movie of all time. But we get some of the best performances of the year, especially one of the very best performances of the year out of Charles Melton, which is a breakthrough performance for the ages. And I just really like that movie a lot. And Haynes hit it out of the park. Number 7 is The Iron Claw, which was probably unfairly my most anticipated movie of the year. So the anticipation I had for this movie, because I knew about the true life story, was a little irrationally high. But I do think Sean Durkin made a sensitive and heartbreaking film with, Zac Efron's best performance ever. And I've been a fan of Zac Efron since 17 again, ever since I realized, oh, yeah, this guy's kind of talented and really funny. But he really disappears in this. And the entire ensemble is great. And I really adore Lily James also. But this really is Zac Efron's show, and I think this movie was inappropriately marketed as like the Von Erich story, but it's really the Kevin Von Erich story. And if you look at it as like a Kevin Von Erich biopic, it's near perfect. But as a Von Erich family biopic, it definitely has its problems. It rushes through things in the second act, while the first act wasn't rushed at all and really set things up perfectly. But I just think, the omission of the other brother, Chris Von Erich, was kind of sours the movie. That was always going to be an inevitability. But I did still have a really good time with this. And I do think the ending really landed quite well and successfully due to how Sean Durkin presented that certain sequence. And the very end with Zac Efron was the perfect cherry on top of this film. My number 6, finally, is Blackberry, which, I've been saying, like, we're not getting the best films from the best filmmakers, from these well-known filmmakers. This is absolutely Matt Johnson's best film, who's kind of been a niche independent filmmaker, who's known for films like The Dirties and Operational Avalanche. He's also known for Vice Show, Nirvana the Band, The Show, which, this was a huge surprise for me because even though it does rip off The Social Network in a couple of ways, it definitely is its own thing. And just the whole, I wasn't sure about the inception or the creation or anything about BlackBerry because I didn't have a BlackBerry. Obviously, I'm a little young for that, but I was definitely aware of what they were, though. And Matt Johnson turns in his best performance. If you're not aware of who he is, his personality could be a little grating, but the character he plays in this, who's a kind of a real guy, but his chemistry with Jay Baruchel is perfect, and that friendship ultimately turns heartbreaking inevitably, but it's so well executed. His handling of tone is exceptional, and we get the best performance from Glenn Howerton of his entire career, and that's coming from a diehard It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia fan. Absolutely one of the best turns of the year, and one of the best musical scores of the year, and one of the best endings of the year. I don't think the 3-part miniseries on AMC was particularly necessary, but it was still good, and I do think this was one of the very best films of this year, and it's one I've rewatched the most. I think it's up there.
Yes. All right. So, yeah, I still got to watch Blackberry, but I will
Mhm.
get to it at some point. All right, moving down. Jeremy,
Hey,
start
hey.
with you. All right, you're back. You're 10
Yes.
through 6.
My 10 through 6. Before the 10 through 6, I'm gonna do a Dustin and do the honorable mentions. I
Yes.
got 5 honorable mentions here. Starting with Asteroid City. I only saw it once. And I remember liking it. And I want to rewatch it again soon. I know it's on Prime, so I'll rewatch that. But I remember liking it and feeling like I was missing something there. And it didn't occur to me until after going to acting school. I was like, oh, okay, this makes a little bit more sense now. So yeah, Asteroid City. They cloned Tyrone. I thought was a fantastic,
Underrated. Very underrated.
fun movie with a great cast and very well directed, and just a fun time, even to the credits. Holdovers was my number 11. If I really had to say so, it was my number 11. It was almost there for me, but I enjoyed that. Maestro, I love the cheese. Give me some more Bradley Cooper loving things. Give me more of directors loving things. He loved doing it. I was like, yes, let's go, man. I want to see the sweat. I want to see him grinding it up against dude while Shout plays. Why
In
not?
the club, yeah.
In the club, yeah. And then finally Priscilla, which I thought was the better Barbie movie of the year.
The
thought it was
better
really
Barbie
good.
and the better Ken.
Yes, I thought it was the better. It said something, so there's that. And that's not saying I didn't like Barbie. I'm just saying Barbie didn't say anything.
Thank you.
So all right, my 10 through 6. Number 10 is 1001, directed by A.V. Rockwell. I think it came out earlier this year, starring Tiana Taylor. I saw that. I think I saw it. I think probably January or something like that last year, and I thought it was really, really sweet and just heartbreaking. And for me personally, it just echoed the times of that, late 90s, early 2000s kind of feel. I thought the performances were really good. It felt like if Beale Street could talk, in that it felt like jazz as a movie. Like it just flowed. It free flowed real well. So that's my number 10. My number 9 is Past Lives. Again, a really surprising movie. I think it's Celine Song's first movie, another New York movie, modern day New York movie. So I thought that was very nice. And the portrayal of intimacy through not really doing much, but like people looking at each other and just listening to each other and watching each other breathe. I thought that movie had just a really, really good vision about love in various forms. Number 8 was Zone of Interest. It freaked me out, and I saw it on Christmas Day. And yeah, and it was a packed theater. It was freaking packed at the AMC in 86th Street, I think. And wow, it felt like it should be played in a museum, like daily. Like it just feels like a museum piece of a movie. And that's not a bad thing. And it's not even saying that it's boring. It's very engaging, but it's an odd movie to make a slice of life out of. And I think in my Letterboxd review, I said it's a good reason to bring the overture back. And this movie's not even long enough. Like it's not even. But if I was like, oh wow, you need this to settle in. You need.
It has an overture.
It has an overture and kind of exit music. Like it's for an hour and 45 minutes. And these next two are exactly like Dustin's. My number 7 was the Iron Claw movie. I was surprised about, because I knew about the Von Erichs, and I dug wrestling as a youngster, but I grew out of it and I just never thought about it. So, and of course the photos of Zac Efron juicing, looking monstrous. He looks like a monster. he looks like he should be he eats people. It made me, it felt silly, and then I was just like, okay, I'm just gonna go check this out. And I was very surprised. Someone described it as a dude ballet, and I think that's an appropriate way to describe it. And my number 6 was Blackberry. Another surprising movie. Again, agreed with the Glenn Howerton thing, because I love It's Always Sunny, and to see him, people were like, "Oh, he's essentially playing Dennis, but in Canada." I was like, "No, it's deeper than that. It's much more. It's the same kind of temperament, but way more nuanced. And I thought Baruchel was great. I don't know if you saw the press run Baruchel had during that. But he had some great interviews and very insightful ones about the making of This Is the End and how much he hated Jonah Hill for real. I don't know. Go look those up. Those are great.
Really?
Yeah.
He really?
He did not like him. And the more that he just showed that, Seth Rogen was like, I'm going to add another scene with the both of them. Like, because he just did not like him at all. And then he admittedly was like, and then when everybody laughed at Jonah's stuff and I didn't like it. And then when I saw the screening, I was like, all right, I get it. He's funny. But like the whole time they were making it, he just did not like Jonah Hill.
Yeah, I remember hearing those interviews.
That's my 10 through 6.
All right, awesome. So, like I said, a couple entries in common. Like I said, I always love doing it just to see like what entries we have in common. All right, Jeremiah, moving on to you. Your 10 through 6. Now that you actually have it solidified.
Oh yeah. And I'm also I can quickly do some fucking whatever. What are they called? Honorable mentions.
Some fucking
I don't know.
Starts
I don't-
burping.
Yeah. I mean, I woke up a little late today. But here's the thing. I'm still seeing movies from 2023. So for instance, Iron Claw, I still got to see it. American Fiction, I got to see it.
Oh yeah.
So this is my top 10 as of today for the podcast. But it may change, but so for today, these are my favorite movies. And for so honorable mentions, like Jeremy, Asteroid City. I thought I personally did not like The French Dispatch. I love Wes. So Asteroid City for me was kind of a return to form. And like Jeremy, there's a whole acting student thing in the 50s. So that was cool too. The Color Purple. I saw that because The Color Purple by Steven Spielberg is one of my favorite films. It is a movie that if you put it on and I sit to the end, I am going to cry. So, and I love musicals, so I checked out the new one. And I got to say, Fantasia kind of kept the ship. And Coleman Domingo, it's really well acted. The songs are good. They did justice. Does it need to exist? Probably not, but it's not dog shit. So I was happy about that. Then Godzilla -1, just a good time, good like adventure, almost, like old blockbuster from like the 80s, 90s feel type of thing. And a reminder that you don't need a ton of, a huge budget. Like that costs like 30 million, looks better than most of the action movies released in America. And then we got Past Lives, really tender and beautiful, and I appreciated the modern New Yorkness of it all too. And then Barbie, just because I actually thought Barbie was a great comedy, like because they don't make a lot of big screen comedies anymore. So just being in a theater and laughing out loud at Gosling's shenanigans, that was enough for me to give it an honorable mention. So okay, now we got 6 through 10. Are you there? Are people there?
We are here.
Yes,
we are all here.
we're respectful
You were
of your
listening.
time.
You were listening so intently.
Uncomfortable.
Actually, I was looking at
just-
my phone the whole time. Fuck you.
I don't know if I'm talking, who am I talking to? Okay.
We're listening. Don't worry.
All right. I'll go through 10 through 6. So my number 10 is Wonka, which is kind of odd. It's one of those things where clearly I just made that decision today, but I really enjoyed it. It hit there's something about that tone, and I haven't seen the two Paddington movies yet, but it just reminded me of like Muppets Take Manhattan or The Great Muppet Caper, or even something like Pete's Dragon from like the 70s, like the old, and the 60s. The Mary Poppins came to mind, and like, oh, this is for kids, but it's also kind of dirty. And oh, Olivia Colman and that dude, they're about to bang in a kids movie. I just, for the kids, I just had a great time.
Can I
For the
just also say
kids.
there's a lot of horny this year. We'll get into that probably.
Yeah,
Horny
yeah,
came
there
back.
is. The
I think it was
horny
gonna come
came
from
back to
Wonka.
the big screen. Exactly.
And then my number 9, which is a lot like Wonka, of course, Zone of Interest. Because Wonka, vaguely fascistic.
Yeah.
Just vaguely.
There's vaguely, but I
There's
saw
chocolate factories in both.
Exactly.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
He was a Nazi chocolatier. Yeah.
Wonka is
We're getting this year kicked off just the right way. I love it.
The girl with the apples. I don't know. You got.
Go
But, yeah.
with the apples.
You gotta see it to know. No, it's a haunting. In all seriousness, it's a haunting movie, and how it sort of just slowly brings it up. Like the screams are very quiet at first, and then it gets louder and louder, and just sort of. I was fascinated by the fact that these people living in this this compound next to Auschwitz they never once say, "Oh, it sucks that we have to hear gunshots and screams all the time." Just the fact that they never say it, and just I don't know. Yeah, like I said before, it's a film that just you don't feel great about humanity afterwards. But Jonathan Glazer's filmmaking and the fact that this is his fourth film in 22 years. It was an excellent film. Number 8 was The Boy and the Heron, which was the first Miyazaki movie I ever saw.
Oh wow,
that's right. I keep forgetting you haven't seen the rest of the Ghibli movies.
I've only seen one.
I've seen all of them, all of the Miyazaki ones at this point, because after I went and did I spent my whole break watching Miyazaki movies. So now like everything's so whimsical. Like I feel like a cat bus is gonna show up at any time, or blah blah, a flying city. Actually, Poor Things is very Miyazaki-esque.
Very much so. Very much so.
But it was amazing for me just never seeing his movies, but I'm a huge lover of traditional hand-drawn animation, and it kills me that Disney gutted it. They gutted it like 20 years ago, but it was just such a pleasure in 2023 to sit and watch on IMAX at Lincoln Square, on an IMAX screen, a beautiful hand-drawn story that is also really trippy and quite beautiful too, and as are most of his films. So that was number 8. Number 7 is Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. I had caught up. I totally skipped the first one, so when the second one was coming out this summer, I just caught up with it. I fell in love with it, and the second one it's the one superhero movie of the year for me that I just think is great, is a masterpiece. I love that at first the ending. I won't spoil anything, but I was like, oh, that's what. And then as I was leaving theater, I was like, no, that's actually awesome. That's like the Empire Strikes Back kinda. I'm in. Spider-Man Across the. Is that the name of the movie, or is that the first one? Shit.
That's this one. Into the Spider-Verse is the first one. Across the Spider-Verse.
They should have fixed that.
Yeah, that's a little too similar.
And then the next one is Beyond the Spider-Verse.
No, they should take Spider-Verse out. It should be like Spider-Man Dimensions and shit. Like,
or just call it
something new.
Dimensions and shit.
Dimensions and shit.
Spider-Verse, Dimensions, shit. That should be like the 3 different entries in the trilogy.
Come on, man. And that's the tagline.
Shit.
Yeah, with the N apostrophe shit.
Yeah.
Dimensions shit. I love it.
Also, there were plenty of moments where I teared up during Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. I just loved it. Anyhow, all right. That's my comic book representation of the year is Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. And then number 6, I put Scorsese's film Killers of the Flower Moon. Really, yeah, fuck. I'm kind of out of words, but on a superficial level, it was very fun to see De Niro and Leo interact in a Scorsese production, and to see Marty giving the performance of his career at the end. Oh, anyway, fuck it. Martin Scorsese shows up at the end of this movie, and it's really good.
Spoilers!
I don't think that's a huge spoiler.
It's not. We're messing
and it's
around.
Really just for nerds too, movie nerds. Like
all right, the movie comes out this Friday on Apple TV Plus. Everybody, go watch it.
Well, is it this Friday? I thought it was like I thought it was Sunday. I don't know days. Anyway,
whatever. It's the 12th. I don't know.
Yeah, whatever it is. All right, and then last one before we get to me, Mike, your 10 through 6.
So, like everybody else, I'll probably hit up with my honorable mentions. So, I will start with a movie that is just me being roasted for 90 minutes. Theater Camp, a delightful comedy about any actor or any person who has ever done any theater at all will see themselves in it. And it is really, actually, just really, really well written comedy. Like Ayo Edebiri just fucking making up everything as she's going along, did her job to become like there's just so much little little bits going on in it that I think are really, really good. And similar to like what you were saying, Jeremiah, about going to the movies, it's a good comedy again. You know, my favorite superhero movie of the year was Air.
Oh my God, Affleck with Batfleck.
Yes, with Batfleck and so Sonny Vaccaro in real life is a truly just not a good-looking man, and the fact that they have Matt Damon playing it is just equally funny. But there's just it's so much fun of a movie. It just goes, and I do think that there's an importance of sports in life, and I really think that this movie captures that and makes a point to try and show that, like, yeah, it can change people's lives. It is more than just a shoe. It does seem kind of silly, but it can be important. So that I was
great in that.
Yeah, and the performances are great. Bateman is fantastic.
Bateman is so good. Bateman and Damon together. Oh.
Christmas Eve.
Another. Yeah, you're right. Another one of my honorable mentions is a Finnish movie called Sisu. I don't know if any of you guys saw it.
The one that was like that was like what, Finnish John Wick?
It's basically just Finnish John Wick, but
it's Finnish John Wick. Cool.
Yeah, because I saw the trailers for it in front of John Wick, and I'm like, oh, it's Finnish John Wick.
It's an unbelievable Finnish man who is basically like the gold miner from Buster Scruggs, who is just all of a sudden by the Nazis, and he just kills all of them over the course of the movie. But it's like John Wick. He gets too many injuries that a normal human being should not survive. It's one of those good old fashioned shoot 'em up revenge flicks where it's just like
and they kill Nazis.
Killing Nazis, baby. Killing
Nazis. I'm in. That.
Yeah. And they had that similar that John Wick thing. By the end of the movie, they're just terrified of him and start running away from him because they can't. They're like, oh no.
That's great.
And the last honorable mentions are going to go May, December. Just an incredible film, like you were saying, Dustin. I almost wish that there was like a little bit more with Charles Melton.
Yeah.
Because like I like now Gordon's doing, I like that plot line, but I'm just like what he was doing and what Julianne Moore were doing. I was just so much more enraptured with that. It's almost like I like what we're doing, but I almost wish we had a different movie. And for number 10, I'm going to go Zone of Interest because like that movie just fucked me up.
Yeah.
Especially as I'm very much a history nerd. Like I studied history in college. I was almost a history major. I think it's super important, and to take this story and tell it this way is something that I'm like so fascinated by. To show it's like we're going to have a movie about World War II, and we're not going to have a single on-screen gunshot. You know, we're not going to have anything that shows anything about what's happening except sound and your own imagination, and it's infinitely more terrifying. You know, because you have to know what's going on over there. You can't. It's one thing to see it like in Schindler's List. It's another thing for me to like imagine it. And it really got me. For number 9, I'm gonna go Asteroid City. I love Wes. This one was not one of my favorite Wes's, but what he's doing here is a lot more depth than what I usually see from him. He's a lot more sadness and a lot more insecurity almost than what he's usually. A lot of his movies are like, this is a clear family is important, art is important. This is what I'm making my movie about. Where this one is like, there's very different threads about what is important to these people, and there's no one clear through line, I feel. And the fact that it's all set in it's like, I love that he uses the desert to make that character. It's basically an extra character too. They're all isolated out here, you know, and then in the middle of it, you have maybe the funniest scene in the movie of the year for me, which is when the alien comes down. That goofy fucking face, and yeah,
with a claymation. Oh
man. Yeah, spectacular. Number 8, Past Lives. A lot of these have already been said, but again, beautiful film. I saw those, Asteroid City and Past Lives, a double feature when they came out, which was a very, very nice night at the movies. But it reminded me of like a play, a stage play. You know, like I'm a hoe for small character-driven dramas where everybody has a correct point of view. You know, It's very Meisner stuff, and it's I love that kind of. I love those. You can make infinite numbers of little beautiful romances like that, and I'm there for it. Number 7, Anatomy of a Fall. They don't make thrillers and whodunits like this anymore, which is very annoying. I wish they did, because it's 2.5 hours of not knowing where you stand and not knowing what is true, what is false, who to believe. And the performances, especially like Sandra Hüller, is absolutely incredible in it. But like the performances of the child, Milo, I can't remember his last name, but there's just so much. There's so much going on about the idea of like what is of like truth and what is like how truth is just what we choose it to believe. That I really, really enjoyed it. And it's also shot really well, very, very beautifully, very, very sparse and very, very haunting. It feels cold in the way that like The Hateful Eight or like The Thing feels cold. Shit. And number 6, speaking of horniness, back in the movies, baby, we got Poor Things.
Yeah.
Finally, first one to drop it. First one to drop. I was waiting. I'm like, okay, who's gonna say it first?
Oh my god! You picked up that apple, and I'm like, oh, all right, Yorgos, I'm in. I'm totally fucking in, boy. It's just a great movie about sexuality, and we don't get movies about sexuality anymore. Like, we just don't.
No, we don't. You're right.
No, people are scared to do sex scenes in film for some reason, and I don't know why. And this movie, I loved it. It was everything I needed for it to be. It's like, especially like the way it's shot too, like you were saying, Jeremiah, like that Miyazaki-ness to it, like the wackiness of it, and I loved every second of it. And it's maybe my favorite line of the whole year is when Ruffalo drops character. When he's periodically, just like, well, don't be a cunt about it. And then he goes right back, darling, it's just
Ruffalo stole the show for me.
No, Ruffalo's great. So my 2 favorite lines from Poor Things, Dustin and I, we actually saw that together and it was fucking great. Where first off, when Ruffalo comes in and Rami Youssef is just like, he has cancer, you fucking idiot. That just killed me. And then Dustin, what was the line that when Christopher Abbott comes in and he's got the stupid gun line, whatever what it is. You know which one I'm talking about.
You were asleep during.
Yes.
Yeah. You were here.
We'll get to that later. Go on.
No, but it's when she was like telling him in his study like that she was gonna leave, and like it was like this very like mature like and then he's just like, well, there's no other option but to point a gun at you. Right? It was like, I lost my mind at that. I thought it was perfect.
Oh man, no, Christopher Abbott is somebody.
Christopher. It sounds like we're saying Christopher Rabbit. Christopher.
Kind of. Yeah. Well, say it 10 times fast and it won't come off as that. But yeah, no, fucking Christopher Abbott just killed me in that. Oh man, yeah. So like I said, just to recap, everyone's 10 through 6 right now. Dustin's 10 through 6 consists of Please Don't Destroy, Treasure of Foggy Mountain, American Fiction, May, December, Iron Claw, and Blackberry. Jeremy's 10 through 6, 1001, Past Lives, Zone of Interest, Iron Claw, and Blackberry. Jeremiah's 10 through 6, Wonka, The Zone of Interest, Boy and the Heron, Across the Spider-Verse, and Killers of the Flower Moon. And Mike's 10 through 6, Zone of Interest, Asteroid City, Past Lives, Anatomy of a Fall, and Poor Things. So far, it looks like Zone of Interest is going to be one that automatically makes the combined list once we do that, since that has been on 3 people's lists on here so far. I'm going to burn through my honorable mentions real quick, and I've got quite a lot of them. I saw 82 movies this year. And yeah, so we've got a lot to get through. So just a couple of shout outs that I wanted to shout out. Gareth Edwards, the creator, and M. Night Shyamalan's Knock at the Cabin. 2 movies that were pretty original for the most part and also just really engaging as far as what they were trying to go for respectively. And then just running through my honorable mentions. We got Wonka, Joyride, still probably the hardest that I laughed in a theater over the summer. Past Lives, Flora and Son from John Carney on Apple TV+. Anatomy of a Fall, Shortcomings, which is Randall Park's directorial debut starring Justin H. Min, which was probably one of the biggest surprises that I saw of the year in terms of like an anti-rom-com that was like really funny and also really equally as poignant and heartfelt. Then we have the 2 movies that I saw exclusively at Tribeca. Don't know if they'll actually come out this year, but this is credited for this year, so I'm counting them: Leroy and The Line. You got Eileen, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Mutant Mayhem, Tetris, Theater Camp, Killers of the Flower Moon, and Poor Things. Beau is Afraid, my favorite Ari Aster movie so far. And then my bottom 5, which all of these could have easily been in my top 10, but just missed out. American Fiction, Dumb Money, Boy and the Heron, Zone of Interest, and Ava DuVernay's Origin, which I actually got the pleasure of seeing early. Now, going through my 10 through 6. This is going to be slightly controversial, may piss some people off, but it's what I exist to do. So we will see what they are. My number 10, look, I mean, Jeremy, I know you still give me shit about putting this in over Killers of the Flower Moon, but I don't fucking care. It's my list. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Yeah, I don't care.
You know what's crazier?
At all.
You know what's crazier?
What?
You know what's crazier?
What?
Maybe because I remembered that I'm doing the podcast with you. I woke up and for some reason the first song that
just
popped in
immediately
my
thought
head
of that.
immediately was
You're like, Dom's
Since You've
gonna
Been
put
Gone.
in Guardians of the Galaxy. Since You've Been
Immediately.
Gone. Wow. Okay, so
I'm
it was
not
reading your
even
mind. So the algorithm was
I'm
reading
not
your
even
mind
joking.
then.
I woke up and I was just thinking of Rainbow for some reason. I thought of Since You've Been Gone. I was like, why am I thinking of that? And it's because of you and your damn list.
Yeah, you know why? Because Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, it was a reminder of everything we lost with the MCU that was great post-COVID. But no, it was just
animal torture.
Yeah, exactly. Listen.
I love that though about it.
Listen,
I thought that was
No,
great
yeah,
about it.
that was gonna be in my honorable mentions as well. To be honest, Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, no,
before
I had
I forgot about it. To be
Yeah,
to be
no,
honest.
I feel that's the problem. I feel like it kind of was one of those movies that kind of got lost in the shuffle. But like,
It did.
I remember seeing this, and I'm just like, man, like this is what just all blockbusters are missing. It's missing animal torture. No, I'm kidding. Like, I was absolutely rocked by this one. James Gunn, again, with everything that he brought to the Guardians of the Galaxy franchise, he wrapped it up perfectly here. It was great, like having one last hoorah, one last adventure with these guys. Yeah, just all the feels, all the comedy, all the great thing. It was great. Just it was like spending that one last tour with your favorite band, like right before they were about to all break up and go their separate ways. And it ends perfectly. The soundtrack kicks ass. Everything you love about this movie and this franchise, it all kind of wraps up here. But because like you come out of this knowing that this is the ending, it just like feels just a little bit that much more special. So that's why again, it was tough. I wasn't sure if it was gonna make it, but by the end, like this is one of the only movies I saw multiple times in theaters. I saw this movie 3 times in theaters, and it still hit me hard every single time I saw it. My number 9, Godzilla -1. Probably the biggest surprise of the year in the sense that, like, okay, so we've kind of been inundated by these American iterations that have basically kind of re-envisioned Godzilla as more of a protector than an actual like threat. Which okay, those movies do what they do, but this movie reinforces. Yeah, I know. But this movie reinforces like what it is that made Godzilla to begin with. In the sense of this makes him scary. What's that?
No, I'm sorry. No, finish. Sorry, I'm sorry. Keep going.
No, so basically, get to this idea of like, first of all, right, this is the movie that finally makes Godzilla scary again for the first time in a long time. Secondly, the fact that this is the first Godzilla movie that I've seen in a while that actually makes the human characters interesting and compelling and makes them the focal and forefront. Like, you got this whole amazing backstory with this character of like him having to choose between like the fact that he, that he did not fulfill his duty, but also wanted to live, and how that kind of was this big reflection of Japanese culture of how they were feeling coming out of World War II at the time. And you have this whole story that sets that up before Godzilla even comes in, and everything that proceeds from there. The director clearly drew a lot of inspiration from both the original 1954 Godzilla as well as the early Steven Spielberg, and it makes for, again, an effort that really, again, turned out to be one of the biggest and most engaging surprises of the year. I felt more emotions with this movie than I did with most of the other movies that I saw. My number 8, one that's already been talked about by a few people, May December. This is a movie that I saw at New York Film Festival, fell asleep during, and therefore missed a lot of like the actual good juicy parts.
Why
and
is
then
it
when
on
I
your list
rewatched
then?
it,
Why is it on your list if you
I'll
fall
explain
asleep?
why. Because when I rewatched it, when it hit
it.
Netflix, I was like,
Okay.
oh, this is one of the best movies that I've seen of the year. This movie was creepy. This movie was thrilling. This movie was disturbing. I mean, you want to talk about another movie that brought the sex back to the movies? I mean, it did that and then more.
And
Like
pet
with
stores
one of the
and
most,
Todd
shit.
Haynes for that.
Yeah,
Todd
with
Haynes
one of
is
the-
good for that.
absolutely, this is absolutely one of the most depraved, but also and disturbing, yet also simultaneously funny. Like Dustin, I do agree this movie is not a
Hysterical.
comedy at all, but it's
But
got
it's
its fair
hysterical.
share of funny moments. Like, I'm sorry,
There's a
the
couple
scene
funny moments. Yeah.
the scene in the beginning when Julianne Moore closes the fridge, the camera
We're
zooms
out.
in super close, the score
Done,
plays.
done.
Well, I think we need more hot
That-
dogs. I lost
We're
it.
all
I
out of
fucking
That is the
lost it.
thesis. I've said it. That is the thesis statement to the movie. That
Exactly.
that whole piece. That is the entire movie right there.
Exactly. I couldn't agree more. So yeah, like I said, this is the first Todd Haynes movie that like really just truly gripped me from start to finish. The second time that I saw it. My number 7, one that has proved to be quite divisive actually since it came out. You know, people had this obviously as a shoo-in for getting a lot of awards, and now people are not so sure. That being Saltburn. I've started rewatching this.
Number
Baron.
7. I'm
Yep.
sorry. Number 7.
Yep.
Not even an
Yes,
honorable
sir.
mention.
Nope.
my God.
Number 7. I loved
That's
it.
over Guardians
He's
of the
livid.
Galaxy 3.
I started rewatching it yesterday. I absolutely loved it. I absolutely
Oh,
loved
man.
every single
Love
minute
what you
of
love,
this.
man. But
Listen,
That's like
I'll
me.
say
That's
this.
like me sitting in front of a microwave turd.
That's a little harsh.
Microwave.
That's a little harsh, I think. No, this
While
movie's
it's being
great.
microwaved.
No, this movie's great. It's Emerald Fennell returning and doing what she does best, which is created like really sleek, really mystifying looking like tales of other people, of damaged individuals. Only in this case, she makes one of a conniving sociopath who and basically disguises it as an as a fuck the rich kind of a parable and story. And I think the lead performances between Barry Keoghan and Jacob Elordi are fantastic. I love the set design. I love the production design. I love the cinematography. Again, it's gripping. It just engages me until the very end. And even at the very end, you know, when the twist is revealed, that kind of devolves into just, you know, okay, who's going to die next and when, you know, again, it had me engaged, to say the least. And some of those more juicy scenes, if you will. Oh man, like the I'm a vampire, the multiple
juicy.
bathtub scenes,
Yeah.
like, oh man.
I keep saying the weirdest words to describe this.
I know.
Well, I
What
feel
about-
like that
It's
describes it. I feel like
gripping
there,
and juicy.
listen, there is no other way to describe this.
Or
That is all
Barry
I'm gonna say.
Keoghan walking into Archie's. What's that actor? The kid who was
Archie
The
Doesn't he,
Gran
like,
Turismo
and sitting
Yeah,
on
that
him.
guy.
Oh,
dude,
that is
that's
the Gran Turismo guy.
Yeah, that is the Gran
Yeah,
Turismo guy.
having
That's
sex
why I
with Barry
recognized him.
Keoghan.
I was like, wait a
That's so
minute. I was
funny.
like,
He was
wait
going
a
fast
minute.
on Gran
and
Turismo. It's
Voyagers.
wild.
Oh man, yeah, and he was in Voyagers too. Oh god, why'd you have to remind me of that movie?
Awful
And then my
movie.
number,
I didn't buy him as an American for 1 second,
Oh,
but
not
all the
at
actors
all.
are good. Dom.
Yeah,
I
right?
thought he was pretty good in that. No, I just want to say that movie's just like a way gayer and sinister, talented Mr. Ripley.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
but
Yeah.
like everybody, but I feel like people knew that
Yeah.
going in.
Just go
for the
see
most part.
talented Mr. Ripley. It's not
Yeah, just
doing the
watch
twist as
that.
well. That's my take. Too,
There
Dom.
is no
Oh,
twist.
man.
He's a freak. We know he's a freak. There's no twist. I know he did
Yeah,
it.
it's Barry
because he's a freak.
Keoghan.
He's a freak. He was typing gibberish in on his laptop.
Yeah, he's a freak. I know it. Look at him. Come on.
Just look at his face. Making him a nice boy would have been the bigger twist.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
the bigger twist should have been Jacob Elordi being like, "I'm the one that drank his cum," and you're like, "Oh, like,
Yeah.
I
But you
did
kind of get
enjoy
that
it, though.
vibe too later in
But
the film.
It,
But
it,
yeah.
it wasn't as good as Promising Young Woman, though. What did you guys think of Promising Young Woman, real quick?
I
I
haven't
thought it
seen
was
that one yet.
fine.
I gotta
thought
watch
was
it.
Fine.
I think she's a
it's
very
another
good
one.
filmmaker.
I think she's a good filmmaker. I don't think she's a good writer.
I'll say this. I was in for the first hour of Saltburn. I loved the college aspect, the sort of the desire for Jacob Elordi. I was into it. And then the second hour, I don't know. From the trailer, I thought it was going to be like they sacrifice people. I thought it was like, the
It
Wicker
should have
Man
been. It
style.
really. You know what? It should have been. That would have been awesome. I would have
Midsommar.
loved that.
It would have been out of the box. All right. Sorry, Dominic. Go on to your number.
All
6.
right, and now wrapping up my 10 through 6. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Easily the best animated movie that I saw of the year. Again, you want to talk about you want to talk about friggin' just absolute like perfection when it comes to animation on the screen. I mean, the way that I described this, what I got out of it is that this is like oil pastels, but like framed as 3D animation. Like it just took everything that I loved about the first one and amped it up to 11. And yeah, a lot of people didn't like the cliffhanger, but you know what? Everything else that I got was so good.
It really works.
And so interesting. It worked for me. Like I could not wait. I cannot wait
For
to see what
those-
Beyond the
For
Spider-Verse
those
is
who
going to be.
saw it, was your sound in your theater working? Because mine was low.
No,
And
mine worked.
That was yours worked.
Where'd you-
Okay.
Where'd
Yeah.
you see it,
I saw
Jeremy?
I saw it at Village East.
Oh, gotcha.
And
Mm.
the sound was a little like it was hard to hear at some points. And
They're
then
a
I
little
remember,
they can be wonky.
but it was
Willy
opening night.
Wonky?
So it was Willy Wonky. And
It was
when I
Willy Wonky.
left, I think Phil Lord tweeted like there are some audio issues in certain digital prints of the movie that we put out. We're gonna fix it. And I think like over the weekend they emailed them a new one. It was like better. So
There's,
I
multiple
Oh, man.
versions.
If
of
only
that
you'd
movie.
waited. If
Well,
only you
yeah,
waited a
then
week to see it.
I know, right? And then afterwards, people were coming out like, oh, they kept changing the animation like week by week as the movie was out. And so I was like, I wonder if we just got like a really just bad test audio version of it or something. Because it was at one point during a fight, the audio dipped even lower, and we were like, no way.
Really?
And then it went back, and we were like, was that a projectionist issue or anything? And the projectionist was like, no, it was literally the movie. Like, we didn't do anything. We were like, okay, but it was like hard to hear at points. I wonder.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, I didn't have that problem. No, I didn't have that problem watching mine. Like I said, the voiceover cast, like the new additions, Oscar Isaac as
yes,
Miguel
Oscar was
O'Hara.
great.
Issa Rae,
Schwartzman
Daniel Kaluuya as Hobie
So good.
Brown,
Was the MVP.
Karen Sony, freaking probably the funniest part was Andy Samberg doing the voice of Ben Reilly. And he's just constantly depressed about everything.
I thought
that was
Schwartzman
hilarious.
was great too.
Schwartzman as the Spot
Oh,
was
Schwartzman.
awesome.
He was the
Yeah.
MVP.
Yeah, Schwartzman
no.
was the MVP.
Yeah, I had a blast with this one, to say the least. This is probably the best movie that I saw over the summer, other than my number one choice, which I think it's pretty safe to say everybody knows what my number one choice is going to be. But that is my 10 through 6, Spider-Man
Wait,
Across the
Don,
Spider-Verse. Yeah.
can I ask, is Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse your number one comic book movie of the year?
TBD. It goes. I'm faced with a little bit of a similar situation as I was in 2016 between Civil War and Deadpool, where it's between those two. They both have like different elements that I love. But like I'm still not sure which one kind of takes the cake for me. You know, because I love them both so much in their own respective and different ways. So that is our 10 through 6. Like I said, please stay tuned at the end once we have all of our lists fully out, so we can figure out which one of these entries are going to make the combined list. It's going to be interesting, to say the least. So Dustin, going back to you, running through your 5 through 2. What is your number 5?
My number 5 is the best comedy of the year, and that is Theater Camp.
Oh.
Theater Camp, to me, it's one of the most heartfelt and easily the funniest and most consistently funny film I've seen this year. I'm sorry, bud, but Io Edit Beery's the weakest part of the movie. You could have cut all of her scenes out of the movie, and like it wouldn't have made a difference. And she's the most pointless one. The only reason they kept her in the movie is because there's a kind of a good payoff with her and Alan Kim's character. But
that's
like,
the only thing I was like, oh, that's weird. Do your own weird dumb thing. I like just making up stage combat and making up fucking mask work and.
I know. Yeah. I just thought that was a little cheap, that whole gag, but everything else rang true for the most part. Like I thought like everything came off as sincere in a non-hokey way, and Ben Platt turns in his best performance ever, and I thought he had a complete arc, and I thought it was easily the funniest he's ever been, and it makes me like excited for his work, and I've never been a fan of that guy since Pitch Perfect. He's annoyed me. And like he's never really had that great of a reputation, but I think this movie should change that, because like you said, he co-wrote the movie also, and he did a terrific job with that. And Noah Galvin completely disappears in this too.
Incredible.
Those two annoy the shit out of me. That's what drew me away from watching Theater Camp, and also growing up a theater kid. I was like, I don't need to be
yeah, but like in the movie, like they're actually playing like tolerable kind of like types in this, and like especially Noah Galvin is like not doing the same thing that he did in like Booksmart. Like he's doing his own thing, and like especially the third act where he has to turn into Amy Sedaris essentially. Yeah, it's like brilliant, and it has really easily one of my favorite third acts, if not my favorite third act of the year. It just has a couple moments with like Patty Harrison and Io Edebiri, which I just don't find them funny. That kind of sour the movie. But Molly Gordon did a terrific job in front of and behind the camera. It's her best work. Jimmy Tatro continues to excel as a great comedic actor, and I'm just a big fan of this movie. I'm sad that not a lot of people, not you guys, but like just people in general, don't have this in their top 10. I think it's the best comedy easily of the year, live action. Number 4 is The Killer. David Fincher's The Killer, which is just a good old fashioned, well made, calculated, well done, all across the board film. It's not David Fincher's best movie. It's a funny movie at points also, but Michael Fassbender is like one of the coolest leading men of our generation. Like he can't really miss, even with Next Goal Wins. Like he's not the problem with that movie. Like he's still fine in that.
I forgot that existed. Wow.
Exactly.
Next Goal Wins.
Exactly.
Is he out here because he's racing cars for 5 years and then coming back and makes like 2 movies and then goes back out and races cars and shit?
Yeah.
Yeah, I need to see more Michael Fassbender again. He's one of my favorite actors. And Tilda Swinton shows up, and Arliss Howard's a beast.
Yo,
I don't have much to
Arliss
say about this. Yeah,
Howard, man.
Arliss Howard's great. And
Love it.
yeah, I really liked this movie a lot. It had an interesting conclusion that wasn't typical to me, and I thought that was kind of refreshing the more I think about it. It had a great Smith soundtrack, and I dug this movie. Number 3 is Anatomy of a Fall. Dusty has an international pick once again in his list. Last year I had Official Competition, which you guys should see. It's a terrific Argentinian film starring Penelope Cruz and Antonio Banderas. This year it's Anatomy of a Fall, directed by Justine Triet. International film directed by a woman on Dusty's list. Oh my God. Dusty's turning a corner. Terrific. Man. Yeah, I changed, man. No, I'm great. I think this is a terrifically well done film, and it's just masterfully directed by a woman, and just it stars terrifically like Sandra Hullard, which I think she should be the favorite in ironically enough against Emma Stone for the actress. That's a movie pun to kill you. But yeah, Sandra Hullard should be the best actress favorite. Easily. This is an insane performance that not many actresses, like even Emma Stone, could Emma Stone have pulled this off? I don't even know. This is a phenomenal movie, phenomenal performance. Milo Machado Grainer, who was the son, did a terrific job. And the lawyers were both terrific. I liked her lawyer a lot, Swan Arland, and the bald guy was like really cool. He's like villain of the year almost. And yeah, I just really dug this movie. I like that it kind of switches gears in the third act and it becomes a little bit more contemplative. But I thought every aspect of this worked. The use of flashback was terrific. I love the writing. It's just a refreshing movie. Now, my favorite live action movie of the year, number 2, The Holdovers. Nice. Alexander Payne's The Holdovers, which is probably arguably his most likable and accessible film. That's why people have attached themselves to it so intently this year, especially on Twitter, and I'm glad to see it. It's probably like my 4th favorite Alexander Payne film, but I still think it's better than any other movie pretty much this year, and that's because of the performances, the direction by Payne that is so understated and such a throwback to 70s cinema that I can't appreciate more. And yeah, like people have compared it to like Hal Ashby. There's a little bit of Bogdanovich in there in the spirit.
I see a lot of John Hughes in there too.
John Hughes definitely a little bit also, and Paul Giamatti I think probably turns in his best performance ever, and that's saying something because he's one of our greatest living actors, and he should also be the best actor frontrunner. He should be winning the Oscar over Cooper and Cillian Murphy this year. Personally, I think he's gives such a heartbreaking but like inspiring performance in this, because he's not a complete loser or dullard in this. He encapsulates all of like the great aspects that we love about his performances in all of his other films, and it's a great amalgam of that for this character that he plays. And Dominic Sessa gives a great debut performance, and Divine Joy Randolph offers wonderful support, even though I would have liked a little bit more with her. And I do think the ending is like a little too cutesy at points, not the very ending, but like just the proceedings, like the office scene, if you guys know what I'm talking. Like that gets a little too convoluted for my taste, which kind of holds it back. And I also think that this movie, its score, which is good, and the soundtrack in general is good, but its musical score is a little too reminiscent of Nebraska to me, and I think Nebraska is the better film and has the better score, and that's just the dusty nerd in me. But I still think The Holdovers is an exceptional film, and I think everyone deserves to see it and needs to see it. It's an essential viewing. It's one of the best films of the decade so far. It's a movie that's already been growing on me, and I think it's terrific. Number 2,
right.
The Holdovers.
All right.
And agree more.
Yeah, I really liked. I was gonna say I really liked Holdovers. There was a thing about it though that held it over for me, which was there was some of it that it is very much an homage, or like it feels like those 70s movies, and then it got to a point where it didn't necessarily it was riding that line, and it felt kind of disingenuous. and that's what kind of held it back for me. I'm like, is this the movie or is this him trying to do an aesthetic thing? And I saw it on a 35 print here at the Roxy
Oh,
two
good
weeks
for
ago.
you! Wow.
And some of it I was like, is this the movie doing this or is this the print doing it? Like that was the thing for me where I was like, it felt kind of Funhouse Mirror. What's up?
Yeah, well, Jeremy, on the digital print they have grain and like scratches and stuff, so some of that may have been fake.
Yeah,
All
so
right,
just it felt kind of layered in that way. I thought but it won me over by the end of it. It really did, and I liked it at the end of it.
Got it. All right, so Jeremy, you're 5 through 2.
5 through 2. We're bringing sexy back. We're bringing horny back. My number 5 is Poor Things. I saw Poor Things.
Yeah.
I got to see it in a very eventful way. I've told this story multiple times. I was in a theater that they thought there was a shooting, so everybody ran out. And then we had to come back, like, and fucking the manager paused the movie while Emma Stone was getting eaten out. And there was like pandemonium though, because
by the French chick.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
So it was near that. Like the movie had like 40 minutes left, and there was a fight going on outside of our theater. And the fight traveled like a fight cloud in cartoons, and I guess they opened our door and it freaked somebody out. Somebody heard gun, and everybody just started running. I didn't. I was very calm. I was like, "Come on, guys, this is not how this happens." But like people got trampled. There were shoes and wallets and popcorn all over the place. But then we finished the movie after all that, and great time. And you know, I'm never gonna forget it. So that's Poor Things. My number 4 is Passages. I fucking really like Passages. That movie hurt in a weird way. I don't know if you guys seen Passages or know what it's about, but it's this director, this foreign film director who is gay and has his husband, and then he has an affair with a woman. And it's not really about love nor the affair. It's more about the power he wields and kind of him taking his director power and putting it out in the real world. And it's just one big manipulation trick. Really well done. Another horny movie. Given the lashes of censorship, has NC-17. You can only watch it on like Mubi. Really just because it has one gay sex scene. Meanwhile, in Poor Things, fucking Emma Stone's getting turned any which way but loose, and that shit's rated R in every fucking theater. But I thought Passages was really well done. I thought that movie's we're Meisner kids. That movie's full of moments, just lovely moments and very sad moments, and just really good acting. Ben Whishaw, I love that dude. I loved him in Women Talking. I'm glad he's still working. That dude's just always nailing it.
He kills it.
Yeah, so Passages is my number 4. My number 3 is little Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer. A little scamp movie about a bomb. And I liked it. I loved how much of an event it was. Motherfuckers were like lining up bathrooms waiting to go see this movie so they didn't miss it. And I only saw it once. I saw it in 70 in IMAX or whatever, and then it filled movie houses for the rest of the summer. And I just really liked how pumped it was. It like just has this energy, this weird energy to it, and I thought the performances were really good. I really liked the character actors of it more. I like the supporting cast more than I like the main character. Not that I thought Killian was bad, but seeing Josh Hartnett and like fucking Benny Safdie do a dumbass accent, Jack Quaid play bongos, Crumholtz
Kevin Bostic.
Boston in a great world, in a great
Michael
world.
Angarano.
Yeah, is Olivia
Thirlby. I love it.
Yep.
This was the comeback year for her between this and Dumb Money.
Yeah, look at that. Like, it's crazy, man. Like, I was just like, yo, this is stacked. And everybody comes in knowing their homework and doing exactly what they're supposed to do. In a just world, Krumholtz will get a Best Supporting Actor nomination.
Oh, he was so great. When he gave him the oranges.
No, Dustin, I will not relax. He gave a showy performance.
Like 4 minutes. He was in for like 4 minutes.
Yo, people have given performances for 4 minutes and won Oscars. Beatrice Straight in Network did it for like 6 minutes. Billy Hurt in fucking History of Violence. Like, yeah. I would have given Krumholtz a nomination. Just giving him. I'd be like, listen, he charmed the pants off me. Give that fucker an Oscar. So yeah, I liked Oppenheimer. And then my number 2 is Marty Scorsese's Killers of the Flower Moon. That as it my number 2 and my number 1 just kept flipping, and I ultimately put Killers of the Flower Moon as number 2. And it switches every time. It really could be my number 1. I just thought it was a very powerful movie. I don't know what else to say about it. It does, you know, it says what it needs to. The whole movie is one firm statement, and I think that's what I loved about it. And you know, the performances are really great, and I want to shout out particularly the score. We lost Robbie Robertson last year, one of my absolute musical heroes, and I just love the fact that he got to go back to his roots and do a like full Native American score. He even did a song, an original song that's on the soundtrack, which he did for like King of Comedy and Raging Bull, which I think is so funny that he did like a song. It's like when Will Smith did his songs for like Men in Black. But it's
Wild West,
yeah, it's like I just love that Robbie Robertson, like every couple years for Scorsese, he's like, yeah, I'll do a song for Gangs in New York, and he'll just do it. So, but other than that, I just thought it was an ode to filmmaking while also being respectful and towing the line for the subject matter that he was making. And it's Marty, you know, he's the guy.
Marty,
yeah,
he's the guy. Absolutely. All right. Again, winding this down, Jeremiah, running through it. You're 5 through 2.
Okay, my number. Shit. Let's see. Where is it? My number 5 is May December. I'm a huge fan of Todd Haynes. Well, I love I'm Not There and Carol. I've missed Todd a few of Haynes' last pictures, but May December was really something. Like, I personally thought it was hilarious in a very dark comedy way. There is something very strange about Natalie Portman, how she's aging, and there's an odd, like, uncanny valley of it all, because I still see her as either a child in The Professional or Mars Attacks, or as Padme Amidala. You know, like, it's odd.
She's a fucking grown woman. We could stop it.
I guess all that's to say is she did a really good job, because I'm not always the biggest fan of hers. To me, even though she is a grown woman, to me, she usually acts like a teenager or something. But yeah, anyway, I don't know. Good film. Number 4, The Holdovers. I'm from the New England area. I've gone through many Boston area winters, and to go to the movies and see that portrayed, because I love winter movies, snow movies, like you mentioned, Michael, Hateful Eight at one point, and Giamatti's phenomenal. I hope that history doesn't repeat itself with the whole Sideways thing. I hope he's not snubbed. I just bring that up because that was such an epic snub when that happened. Like, yeah, every other actor you're nominating except the dude that made the movie work. Anyway, that's Holdovers, and it was just good. I love Alexander Payne, and his previous film, Downsizing, just did not work for me or really anybody. Well, some people defend it, and maybe I should give it another rewatch, but I'm just happy that was 5 years ago. He's out of director jail, and he's going to be fine, and I can't wait to see what he does next. And then number 3, bringing Horny back, of course. Poor Things. Just a blast, just a good time. So many movies, including on these lists, are depressing as hell, and I didn't find anything depressing about Poor Things. I love the practical filmmaking of it all, the matte paintings, the miniatures, the shooting on film, the aspect ratio, the black and white to color. Black and white film stock has gotten really good this year, because also Oppie looks phenomenal in black and white. Yeah, and just the fact that it was so open with the eroticism, like you said, Michael, like you get this feeling that we live in such a sterile world in this modern 2023, and that especially in filmmaking, people don't want to go that far like they used to back in the day, in the old days. But Yorgos Lanthimos just says fuck it, and obviously him and Emma Stone were partners in producing this thing, and they did a great job. I can't wait to see more from them, of course. And then now on to number 2, we have All of Us Strangers by Andrew Haig, or I think that's how you pronounce his name. I saw this last night with Michael, and Andrew Scott is now my favorite performance of the year. He's the one I'm rooting for Best Actor. all four of the main actors deserve recognition, kind of in a Streetcar Named Desire kind of way, or Network. Just give all of them actor, supporting actor, actress, supporting actor. It looks beautiful. It's still pretty new. I haven't quite gotten. Plus, I woke up really late this morning, so I'm still kind of processing it. But it's just a beautiful movie that. And we did a double feature of All of Us Strangers with Zone of Interest, and All of Us Strangers, you walk out feeling, at least I did, feeling pretty good about humanity, or about intimacy, love, like the possibility of love, all that kind of sentimental bullshit. What can I say? It's a really, really great movie, All of Us Strangers.
All right, good choice. And then moving on to Mike, what is your 5 through 2?
So all of mine have basically been said in various different orders. For number 5, I have American Fiction. I just adored the balance between comedy and beautiful, like, reconnection. Because, like, for me, like, the whole, like, my favorite crux in the whole movie is Joan K. Brown and Jeffrey Wright's, like, reconnection as brothers in that movie. And there's just something that between that, like, that beautiful character drama going on between those two guys, and then this fucking hilarious comedy that's going on in the background of all of this, intercut. The only thing that really kept it from being higher for me is, I think, Dustin, you said that, like, it kind of, the ending kind of lets off the gas a little bit, where it's just like, we're just gonna pick an ending and we're just gonna have one and go, where it doesn't quite end as hard as I want it to, but, like, especially, like, Sterling K. Brown is incredible for me in this movie. 4, Marty, Killers of the Flower Moon. What can I say? It's just like the same thing like you said, Jeremy. It's just good. There's just no, it's like every performance is great. Like, I love seeing De Niro go against Type with this weird ass accent, being this, country bumpkin. I love
Is
Leo
that one of his
being
best accents?
Yes, I'd say.
I think so.
Leo being this bumbling moron going against Type, and Lily Gladstone just being this ethereal presence that's just throughout this movie. And again, it's like there's again, and it's because it's Marty, he has these incredible shots where it's like when they find her sister after the bombing and she's lying all peacefully, and it's just like, oh, is she asleep? And then they pull her up, and then the brains fall out, and it's just to go from this angelic view to this horror in like half a second, and for 3.5 hours, and then at the very end, I adored it. 3, I have Holdovers because it's perfect. It's beautiful. Love it so much. That thing that you were talking about, Jeremy, where it's like, does it feel like it's the 70s? I can tell that he's doing that on purpose, but I love it because, like, it's like that thing that I was talking about earlier. It's like we're going back. Where this movie feels like the 70s, and he wants you to feel like the 70s. He wants you to make it feel like this is a time from filmmaking when, we didn't have to do anything big. It could just be a tiny little story about people grieving in wintertime by themselves, and finding community amongst each other. And it is also hilarious, and it's that perfect little balance. The music is great. I adored it. I've seen it 3 times now, and it's probably going to be the most rewatchable movie of the year for me. Number 2 is my number 1 for forever, which was Oppenheimer. Again, it's like going back to the history thing. Like, I was openly weeping in this movie because not just of what this movie is, and I love what the movie is. This 3-hour epic with incredible actors, all doing incredible work with beautiful vistas, and the pacing just does not let up. But, like, what it does culturally also, I think, is incredibly important. Is that we I think as a society have forgotten that we live under that Damocles of total nuclear destruction and the end of the world at any possible moment. It's something that I feel that, like, we've kind of forgotten. And I feel like this movie not only does that it says that message, but does it in such an entertaining and moving and gripping way. Like, from that first second, and I saw it 3 times in theaters, and neither at any point did I feel this movie was 3 hours long. It's just incredible. And Casey Affleck is incredible. I want to shout him out. None of us said that one scene yet. Is so terrifying. Those are my 2 through 5.
All right, solid choices, gentlemen, all around. So just to recap, Dustin's 5 through 2 is Theater Camp, The Killer, Anatomy of a Fall, and The Holdovers. Jeremy's 5 through 2, Poor Things, Passages, Oppenheimer, Killers of the Flower Moon. Jeremiah's 5 through 4, May, December, The Holdovers, Poor Things, and All of Us Strangers. And Mike's 5 through 2, American Fiction, Killers of the Flower Moon, The Holdovers, and Oppenheimer. So as of right now, basically just to give you guys like a precursor to how it's going to work, basically the rule is that if a movie has made 3 or more of our lists, that it is automatically in for the combined top 10 when we do that. So as of right now, I'm already seeing Poor Things is going to be in, Killers of the Flower Moon is going to be in, The Holdovers is going to be in, Oppenheimer will be in, and actually I believe that The Zone of Interest will be in as well, because that is on 3 of your guys' lists. And Across the Spider-Verse, I got to check and see, but we shall see once we get to the end. So my 5 through 4. So this will get hopefully a little bit more conventional, at least until we get to number 2, when I inevitably piss everybody off again and have everybody talking over you again as usual. My number 5 is The Iron Claw. This is one of the movies that I saw in my week of podcasting that I did in between the end of school and Christmas. And yeah, this movie just absolutely floored me, knowing nothing about the Von Erich wrestling family, knowing nothing about really just the world of wrestling and how it works in general. Just really interesting cast, really interesting and different kind of direction that A24 has done. Usual before, it's my first Sean Durkin movie that I've seen. I miss Martha Marcy May Marlene when that came out back in 2011. And yeah, this movie was just... And like, I've never seen a movie go so like change such drastic genres, where the first hour of this movie is like a sports biopic of sorts, and then the last hour almost like kind of becomes this like really horrific spin on Final Destination, where you're basically just like watching each of the brothers as they progressively die off in like increasingly more and more sad and sickening ways, as you kind of witness is the progressive pressure that has been placed on them by their dad, and both by themselves with their like commitment to wrestling, and how that unfortunately, pays itself off in the worst way possible. It's one of the most interesting and different types of kind of like male trauma, essentially, that I've seen in really anything recently. And it was definitely one of the most like just one of those movies where when I left, I'm like, I just feel like just a weight just like came off my chest. I'm like, I need to just like sit with this one. But this is one that I'm going to be thinking about and talking about for a very long time. And going off of whoever's Efron point that they brought up earlier. Like I just couldn't get over when you first saw him come into frame in this movie. It's like the size of his arm. Now it took him like almost damn near the entire frame of the movie. I'm like, Jesus Christ. Like, I don't think I just couldn't. I was just so distracted by like just how physically big he had gotten. So that's my number 5, the Iron Claw. Number 4, we already talked about it ad nauseum. The Holdovers. This is just pure delightful joy. Just unadulterated joy from start to finish. Beautiful performances, beautiful direction. And it's kind of funny because this comes from a movie that you wouldn't expect, because it's all about a movie about like just a couple people who are just stuck at like this boarding school in the middle of New England winter, which, as you were saying, Jeremiah's got some pretty harsh winters. It's kind of, I love movies about outsiders. I love movies about people like, from like different backgrounds having to like stick it out under harsh conditions and like respectively bonding off of each other as a result of it. And this movie had that in spades. Like I said, absolutely incredible breakout performance from Dominic Sessa. I really, really hope he gets nominated. Paul Giamatti, like, this is career best work from him. He's just been consistently working for the last like 30, 40 years, and he's just gotten better each and every time. And this is up there as far as performances. And Divine Joy Randolph finally got her name right in the correct order after I was screwing it up for so many times. Yeah, she deserves to win Best Supporting Actress to me easily. This is just one of my absolute favorites. Just came out of this movie feeling good, which I can't really say about a lot of movies that I watch now. We were talking about bringing sex back to the movie, and a lot of you guys have talked about Poor Things and a bunch of other installments, Passages, whatnot, which are interesting. My nomination for the movie that officially brought sexy back to the movies is a Netflix movie, yes, but I think it is one that definitely deserves it. Fair Play from Chloe Demont. This movie, I love this movie from start to finish. This is just one of those ones where I just could not take my eyes off of it. Like, just this movie's dealing with so many different things. This movie is dealing with, obviously, how work can get in the way of like solid relationships, how like flipping the switch on like the traditional gender roles can cause all sorts of havoc, like different forms of like insecurity and where that comes from, also just completely anchored by its 2 leading performances with Alden Ehrenreich and Phoebe Dynevor, who I think are both getting severely overlooked in terms of in terms of the performances that they bring respectively to the table. These are two of my absolute favorite performances of the year. I remember when this first came out at Sundance, it was making rave reviews. And then when Netflix got it, I was like, okay, like how good is this gonna? I'm like, how good is this actually gonna be? Is this gonna be one of those ones that actually lives up to the hype or no? And I can safely say that it did live up to it. So fair play. That's my number 3. And then my number 2. Yeah, this is the one that's going to piss all you guys off because of how high I have it. One of you guys mentioned this for honorable mentions. And again, this is another one. I went in fully expecting this is going to be Oscar bait. This is going to be another give me an Oscar movie. But I have to say that I was thoroughly surprised by how much I enjoyed Bradley Cooper's Maestro. Like, I was very, very, very surprised. I was not expecting to enjoy this as it is. I'm like, okay, he's doing Leonard Bernstein. This is, it's going to check off all the boxes. And it does do that. But there was just something just like so like engaging and heartfelt about it. You know, like, first of all, this is Bradley Cooper's most different kind of a performance that I would say that he's ever given. Like, one of the things that's always really impressed me about Bradley Cooper is how he's able to like change and grow and evolve as an actor and as an entertainer in a way that I would say that most actors do not have. You know, I feel like most actors, they kind of not coast, but they kind of go based off of what works for them as well, for a long time, or they like just come in and it's like, oh, they're different every time. And Bradley Cooper is kind of one of those guys where you got a little bit of him, like a certain part of him for like a decent period of time. You know, you had the Bradley Cooper of the late 2000s, which leads into the Bradley Cooper of the early 2010s, which leads into the Bradley Cooper of like the mid 2010s, and all of which builds into like his directorial debut of A Star Is Born. And while this movie I think is more consistent than Star Is Born, I understand why people obviously would go for Star Is Born more so over this. But Maestro, man, there was just something just other than the ending, which I have some problems with when it immediately cuts to the Tears for Fears song, just kind of out of nowhere. There was just something really.
Any more questions?
Yeah,
Cut
right.
to black, Tears for Fears.
There was something.
Questions.
Yeah, there was something interesting and different and new to the approach that it took, where it's like, instead of the typical, oh, like he's closeted gay, but he can't admit it, so he's like obviously married to someone. No, like he genuinely did care for the Felicia character portrayed by Carey Mulligan, and it's kind of like that source of conflict in terms of like being true to himself versus like actually being in love with someone who just unfortunately just doesn't go along with his proclivities. And I like that they didn't make this what's called the Leonard Bernstein clip show. Like, that's not what this was, which I actually like they really leaned into the emotion of it overall. And that's kind of what really just hit it for me. And I just remember like when I finished watching this, I was just like, wow, I was just completely moved by this. So yeah, it's not going to make everybody's lists. Yeah, it's not going to be on. It's not going to be everyone's favorites of the year, but I loved it. So Maestro, that is.
Dom,
I agree with most of what you said. The only thing I disagree with is that it's not about Leonard Bernstein. It's more about Bradley Cooper. The movie's about Bradley Cooper.
Right.
But that's why. But I liked it for that reason, because if you want to watch a Leonard Bernstein documentary, go watch American Masters.
Right. Exactly.
It's not what I'm here for. I'm here to watch Bradley Cooper do a dream ballet to the On the Town music, and then grind up on a man at a club at the end in old man makeup. Like, I'm here for that. That's what I'm here for.
With 2 Tears for Fears specifically.
Exactly.
Yeah, I give him props for making the movie he wanted to make. First time I saw it, I was disappointed by it because I love Star Is Born, and I watched it again with my dad who loves classical music, and I still didn't really dig the movie. But I've listened to his WTF talking about making Maestro, and I give him props. He made the movie he wanted to make. It's not the Leonard Bernstein movie I really wanted to see, but I respect him, and I've said this a lot, but can't wait to see his next picture. He's a great director.
Yes, he is. He has proved to be a
great film
director.
Photography too.
And again, the crazy thing that he was going to have Spielberg direct this originally. That Spielberg saw the early cuts of Star Is Born, is like, yeah, you could do
it's
this.
Yours.
This is yours. This is yours to do for sure. All right, so moving on to our number ones. And Dustin, what is your number one favorite movie of 2023?
All right, now I've discussed, movies, of harrowing nature, like, May, December, with that whole Villy and, Mary Kay Letourneau controversy, the Iron Claw, the harrowing story of the Von Erich family, BlackBerry, the creation and downfall of the BlackBerry device. David Fincher's The Killer, a great calculated crime thriller. Anatomy of a Fall, a great, awesome old school courtroom thriller. And The Holdover is a great, amazing coming of age, middle age, teenage film. that makes you feel all warm and fuzzy like you want. My favorite movie of the year is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: Mutant Mayhem. Yeah,
Yeah, cool.
I'm 12 apparently.
Oh, hold on, wait, Dustin, I have something to play.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Here's in a half shell. Turtle power.
There we go.
That
I
was
just had
for
to
you.
do that. I just had to do that real quick. I've been planning that bit for a long time. So, Dustin, why is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem your number one of the year?
I missed it. You need to persuade me.
I loved it. It was really good.
It just made me feel fucking good, okay? Like you guys were saying about the holdovers, this movie I had really nothing wrong with it. Even Io Edebiri brought her little trademarkness and it didn't bother me in this movie, okay? This was a near perfect animated film. Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg obviously were fans of this property. I was not even a fucking fan of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles really as a kid at all. And yet I love this movie and it's my favorite of the year. It's one of the funniest. It has beautiful animation. I think it has better animation arguably than the last Spider-Verse movie. This felt more complete, obviously. It had an amazing voice cast top to bottom. I didn't really have any issues with this movie. I really didn't. It had an amazing soundtrack, great 90s hip hop soundtrack. There's a couple lines in this movie that are deliberately kind of annoying, but I think that sells the teenage spirit of these characters better. And I think the casting of actual teenage actors for these turtles really worked out for the best, in my opinion. And while I haven't seen the 2007 TMNT, I really doubt that that movie is going to make me feel as good or as happy as this movie did. And it really was an expertly directed and written and conceived animated film, and I can't wait for a sequel.
Absolutely.
You bought it. You actually got a physical media copy of it?
You got a
Yeah, I got it.
DVD of it.
Well,
Yes,
that's
sir.
No special features either. That's bullshit.
No, DVDs. They don't do that anymore with DVDs. You gotta get
They don't?
Blu-ray. Too. They don't.
So
DVDs
sad.
literally are bare bones. It's like theatrical trailer, if then. And if not, it's like just the movie.
And Paul Rudd is amazing in this movie too. Just FYI, plays Mondo Gecko, and I love
Yes.
Paul Rudd.
Oh yeah, he is great.
Yes,
Gecko.
Mondo Gecko.
That
Yes,
little
indeed.
face, little creep.
Yes, indeed. All right.
I know I kind of sound pretentious most of this video, and then my number one is a fucking kids movie, but
It's perfect. I
Yeah,
wouldn't
that's
have it
how it
any
is,
other
baby.
way.
that's how the
Wouldn't-
cookie crumbles.
Wouldn't have it any other way. Jeremy, your number one favorite movie of 2023 is?
My number one is May December. I fucking
Nice.
loved this movie. I thought it was yeah, it's technically not a comedy, but fuck you, I laughed. I laughed
Yeah,
throughout
me
most
too.
of it. And it solidified itself as my favorite of the year because I wanted to watch it again as soon as it ended. Like literally the credits rolled and I was like, I want to hit play, but it was too late and I had to go to work the next day. But I thought the performances were really good. I thought it was the line it toes between making fun of actors and the industry and media and entertainment while also shining a light on the how true. This is why it swapped that and Killers of the Flower Moon kept switching between 1 and 2 because they both kind of deal with the same thing about like what do you do in terms of a tragedy when you're outside of it in a way. And Killers of the Flower Moon does it towards the end, whereas May December does it for the whole movie. And I thought Julianne Moore was great. She's a calculated actress that, you know, like what else can you say about Julianne Moore? To go off of Jeremiah's point about Natalie Portman, I feel the same way. Not like I saw her as a little girl, but like she always had this kind of it sounds wrong to say, but this kind of like bratty energy in a lot of her movies and stuff. And this is one of the first things where it felt like she was like being grown. Like even when did fucking Thor 4 come out? Was that 2 years ago?
Thor 4 was last year.
Yeah.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
like
Thor Ragnarok
wow.
was summer of last year.
yeah.
Damn.
So Thor
Forgot
when
about
she
that.
was in Thor, what was it, Love and Thunder or whatever?
Yeah.
When she was in
Yeah.
that, I was like, we gave her an Oscar. Like, I was very concerned. But then watching May December, I was like, oh my god, this is it. And I love that the movie ends on one big joke. Like it's just one
Yes.
funny fucking joke at the end of that movie. And then Charles Melton is fantastic, and it hurt my tummy to watch him just unravel throughout the whole thing, and him being the victim of two ladies ping ponging him around. But yeah, that's my favorite of the year. Just Todd Haynes really knew how to just walk the line in terms of what this movie was, and it was really rewatchable. So that's my spiel.
All right, fantastic. Jeremiah, your number one favorite movie of 2023 is?
Well, my number one favorite movie of 2023 is Oppenheimer. It's the one I saw the most. It may have been around 5 times. Every time, either on 70 or IMAX 70. That's a good thing about living in New York. It just exceeded all my expectations. I love Nolan. I did not love Tenet. So this one kind of, I don't know, I just needed to get my faith back in him. It needed to be good, and I just was blown away by it. One of the things I really loved about it was how it was sort of about the creative spirit of these scientists when they all got together, and sort of like what Jeff Goldblum says in Jurassic Park, just because you can do something doesn't mean you should, type that becomes the second hour. But I mean, instant classic sequence with the Trinity test, everything it has to say, blah, blah, blah. But the fact that it was a hit, and the shenanigans of a big titty hit, and
those were
how,
the
like-
atomic bombs of that movie.
Yeah,
I
absolutely. What did you say,
Oh,
Dustin?
shit.
Those could stop wars?
Yeah, those could prevent wars. I don't know what.
oh, he's talking, and also
I
bringing
love
sexy
Florence
back.
Pugh.
Bring it
Oh,
sexy
yeah.
back.
The
Exactly.
horniest
Yeah.
Nolan ever.
The craziest scene is when she made him read that fucking quote and then she put
That
him
was
inside.
insane.
I was like,
I
I
nah.
still couldn't get over that.
The fact,
I was-
Jeremy, that it didn't kill the movie, that
Nope.
campy ass moment, like,
Nope,
makes it
not at all.
The minute I saw that, I'm like, number one of the year. No question. Easily.
Okay.
Like, I don't need to see the actual atomic bomb go off. Number one of the year.
I love Florence Pugh so much.
Yeah, I love her too.
And you
Good-
love her
good
Florence
person,
Pugh
too.
as well. Thank you.
Her Pews.
Pugh.
That's what
Pugh.
Great film. Loved it.
Great movie. Awesome. All right. And then, Mike, bringing it back to you. What's your number one of the year?
So for the longest time, it was Oppenheimer up until literally last night, sitting in that, watching All of Us Strangers, when I was just ethered into being like a pool of emotional nothingness. Like this movie, I again, for the longest time, I thought Giamatti should get the nod for Best Actor until, again, I saw Andrew Scott last night. Like, the way that this movie, it feels a lot like a Tarkovsky movie, where it's like it's a treatise on memory and what is and how can that be detrimental to a person, and how can it also help somebody, and how, like, when you're going, it's about grief, and it's about loss, and it's about pain, and it's about how remembering those things can hurt you, but it can also help you to move on, and it's just an incredibly beautiful film. Like you were saying, Jeremiah, all 4 actors I think should be nominated. Claire Foy is incredible. Jamie Bell, I think,
Wonderful. Yeah.
made me weep openly in the middle of the theater.
Me too. Me too. We were crying together.
Paul
Sensitive
Mescal,
voice.
but Andrew Scott delivers, and he's one of my favorite actors in the world, and he delivers, I think, the best performance of his career. As I was leaving the theater last night, I was thinking more and more, this might be it. And then, like, I slept on it, and I woke up, and I'm like, yeah, I haven't had an experience like that in a movie theater watching a film in years. So it is not for the faint of heart. Get ready to go in and just go through it. But it pushed all the buttons I needed to push. And like I said, like you were saying, Jeremy, was like, it's just Meisner. It's just moment after moment, man. It's all. It's 2 hours of emotional prep. That's what it is.
All over the place.
Jesus
Emotional
Christ.
prep.
Yep.
All over the place.
Everywhere.
Yep. Absolutely.
It's one of those that, like, I wouldn't change a second of my experience of it, and that's usually something that.
And it doesn't make you miserable at the end. Like, it is a sad movie at times, but it makes you feel good.
It's incredibly cathartic.
Cathartic, yeah.
Yes. Absolutely. So with that, we'll go on to my number one, and then we will make this combined list, which this is actually going to be a lot easier to do than I thought, given that the amount of entries that we have shared in common. Yeah, my number one, I'm not gonna wait for this. Like I said, I've known this was gonna be my number one, really probably since before the year started, and I found out this was gonna be Nolan's movie of the year. Yeah, it's Oppenheimer. This and Guardians of the Galaxy 3 are the only two movies that I saw 3 times in theaters, respectively, and rightfully so. Yeah, just every time I came back to it, I'm just like, man, this is just Nolan's most fully realized film probably since The Dark Knight. It's everything that I feel like he's been it combines everything that makes him who he is, you know, with his delineation on time, his idea of people working so hard for what it is, you know, that they want until they realize that it's being taken away from them, the idea of prioritizing your own hubris over, you know, and before and then ultimately realizing the consequences of your actions a little bit too late. Like I said, the cast, the visual cinematography, it's always amazing to me whenever I hear the behind the scenes of Nolan movies, and it's just like how simplistic the shooting process is, where it's like they come in, it's usually just one camera, you know, he doesn't have usually a whole big team about it. He shoots everything on analog film, but it's pretty much just like him and like maybe like a couple other people, and the actors, they're kind of figuring it out as they go along. You know, he'll usually, the actors will come in and they'll do the rehearsal before they even bring in the camera to talk it over. And I mean, just goddamn, like it is just friggin' magical how epic he is able to make pure simplicity, where he credits J. Robert Oppenheimer as being the most important person in recent history when he was first promoting this movie back before it came out. And at first I wasn't quite sure what he meant by that. I'm like, the dude who invented the atomic bomb. And then I thought about it and I'm like, oh no, because this guy changed the whole entire fate of the weapons arms race and the way that, you know, weapons kind of influence the global political rush forever. Like he did that. And what's so interesting is how he portrays this. Like he kind of basically crafts together 3 different movies. You have the first hour, which is kind of like this interesting origin story. And then you have the second hour, which he kind of describes like a heist movie where they're basically like bringing together the team in order to work towards this one thing up until you see the bomb go off. And then the last hour is kind of like this courtroom drama that almost acts as like this meta commentary, kind of going back and re-examining the first 2 hours of the movie, and it's all done so seamlessly and all tied together. Once again, the cinematography of Hoyt van Hoytema, the score by Ludwig Göransson, which, oh my God, is just like, the minute I heard that, I'm just like, score of the year. Like, the amazing thing about what Ludwig does with his scores is that it's always kind of, you're never getting one thing. You always feel like it's going to lead you in one direction, and then it like pivots and goes in the complete opposite direction. It's like it's like Hans Zimmer and Reznor and Ross like had a love child that's like just all chaos all around. Like I would have been really interested to see what Ludwig's score matched up with the Dark Knight would have looked like as opposed to Hans Zimmer's score. But yeah, I saw this 3 times in theaters. This is how much I'm in it for Nolan. I'm in it for Nolan so much that I literally sat on the floor for the first time I saw this because I accidentally reserved a wheelchair spot because every single freaking seat in all those goddamn theaters and almost the entire fucking island of Manhattan was filled up because that's how much people were ready to turn out for this. That's how ready people were to get more Nolan back, you know, for the few that didn't watch Tenet when it came out. You know, that they hadn't seen a Nolan movie in theaters probably since Dunkirk. And so this was an event to say the least. I remember this was going to be a big deal when I was talking to all my friends upstate. And this was really like one of, if not the only movies that they were like actually real looking forward to, because that's how much Nolan can deliver. And he did, and he's going to win Best Picture, and he's finally going to get his Best Director win for it. So my number one, Oppenheimer. Now, gentlemen, going into our combined list. So the rule is, in order for a movie to make our combined list, it has to have made 3 or more of our entries. And I have 7 movies that hit criteria. So you have Oppenheimer, which is on mine, Mike's, Jeremy, and Jeremiah's list. Poor Things, which Jeremiah, Mike, and Jeremy all have on theirs. May December, which has me, Jeremy, Jeremiah, and Dustin. Kills of the Flower Moon, which is also on Mike, Jeremy, and Jeremiah's list. The Iron Claw is on mine, Dustin's, and Jeremiah's list. The Zone of Interest is on Mike, Jeremiah, and Jeremy's list. And then the only movie so far that has made all 5 of our lists, respectively, that being The Holdover. So those 7 movies, as of right now, are locks for the combined list. Now, as far as movies that made only 2 of our lists, I actually have 4 here. I have Past Lives, which I believe is on Jeremy's and Mike's. You have Across the Spider-Verse, which is on mine and Jeremiah's. You've got All of Us Strangers, which is on Mike and Jeremy's. And you have Blackberry, which is on Dustin and Jeremy's. And then you have all of our individual one-off entries. So, gentlemen, how do you want to do this? You want to exclusively, so we have 3 spots we have left to fill. Do you want to make it exclusively the ones that made 2 or more of our list, or do you want to consider some of the other ones that only one of us had as one-offs? My community.
I'm gonna Iron Claw. Iron Claw got to be on there.
Iron Claw's already on there. Iron Claw's
It's
already
on there.
allowed.
All right.
Yeah, because it's on three of our lists.
Okay.
Yep. Like I said, we have 3 spots left to fill. So like I said, the movie entries that are on 2 of our lists, we have Past Lives, Blackberry, All of Us Strangers, and Across the Spider-Verse. And then the other one-off options that we have Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, Godzilla -1, Saltburn, Fair Play, Maestro. Dustin has Ninja Turtles, Holdovers, Please Don't Destroy, Anatomy of a Fall. Sorry, I was wrong. Anatomy of a Fall also is on 2 of our lists as well. I believe,
Okay.
Mike, you have that as well. So I believe that, yeah, so Anatomy of a Fall and American Fiction as well. I forgot about that as well. So we have American Fiction and Anatomy of a Fall as well that were made 2 of our lists. Dustin, what were you going to say?
I was going to say, like, since they have All of Us Strangers high up, that should probably be on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's true. You 2 did have All of Us Strangers pretty high up. All right, so we're all good with
One
All of
and
Us
two.
Strangers making the list?
Yeah,
Yeah.
what about Blackberry over Past Lives, though? Can you make that happen?
All
Yeah,
right, well-
I'm down. I'm actually
I'm
okay
down.
with that.
All right.
Cool.
Mike, you good with that?
Mike, you're muted, my guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, my bad.
All right. So Blackberry over Past Lives is good?
Yeah.
And Spider-Verse, right?
Yeah, it's got to be Spider-Verse. It's got to be.
Yeah, go.
There you go.
Yeah, I'm fine with that too.
All right.
Like, I have no qualms with it. The only thing that can't be on this list is Saltburn.
Well,
Yes,
it's
yes.
not.
All
It's
right.
That
not.
was the
So
most
I think we're good.
controversial.
It's not.
Literally
So I
the
think
one.
we're
All
good.
the other ones, I have no problem. Like, yeah, sure, yeah. That's what I'm like. No, that deserves to be on.
Keep
the
that
poopy
away.
All right.
Yeah, the poopy.
Exactly. All right.
What about-
So, gentlemen. So on that now we arrange them and figure out which spots to go in. So, like I said, we have Oppenheimer, Poor Things, May December, Killers of the Flower Moon, The Iron Claw, The Holdovers, The Zone of Interest, All of Us Strangers, Blackberry, and Across the Spider-Verse. So, how are we ranking
Honestly,
them?
that
What's going
ranking
where?
is probably it. I'm not
You think
even
so?
kidding.
Well,
way
the
you read
only
that, I was
reason
like,
why
all right.
the only shift that I'll make is because Holdovers was the only movie to make all 5 of our lists. I would vote that should be number 1 potentially over Oppenheimer.
I agree.
Hey,
Okay.
I agree.
I'm
Yeah.
fine with that.
All
I'm
right,
fine
so
with
we'll switch
That
that.
was like
And
the
then
easiest. Like, it's like, yeah,
that
okay.
was that was the.
Are we
super
being? Is this
easiest
too
one.
agreeable? Like, what's going on?
No. Listen, just because everyone
Really
has
too
you
much.
think that it is that is not agreeable doesn't necessarily mean that it
Like
is a bad
Holdovers
thing.
wasn't even on my list. Like, it was 11, but it's really like 10.5. Like, it's like right there. Like, it's
Yeah.
right there.
It's like
right-
it's right there.
a fart away. Like, it is a Paul
Yeah.
Giamatti
Fart away.
fart.
It-
that was-
it's
That,
pretty
when he
much right
farted,
there.
there's a part where he's going to bed and he farted. That was the loudest I laughed. Like, in theater.
See,
I
for me-
guffawed for like 90 seconds.
I don't
See,
even.
for
remember
me,
that happened.
that was probably for me. That was probably the scene where it's like right after Dominic Sessa injures himself, and they're trying to get the car, and he's trying to scrape the ice off the car as fast as he
Oh,
can.
great scene.
That killed me.
Yeah.
That was fucking
Literally,
hilarious.
any ADR of a fart will kill me. Like, it because obviously he didn't like maneuver his body. He just like cracked his back, was getting ready for bed, and they're just like, you know.
What about in the church? What about in the church when he's like, Jesus can hear you?
Oh yeah, that's good. Yeah.
Oh man. Oh, good stuff all around as I finish typing up our combined list. All right, people. So with that being said, like I said, the panel has officially made its declaration. So with that being said, the official Talkin' TV combined top 10 best movies of 2023, the largest panel that I've assembled yet. Whoever wants to do a drum roll, if they want to, can. If not, number 10. Number 10, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Number 9, Blackberry. Number 8, All of Us Strangers. Number 7, The Zone of Interest. Number 6, The Iron Claw. Number 5, Killers of the Flower Moon. Number 4, May December. Number 3, Poor Things. Number 2, Oppenheimer. And number 1, The Holdover. So with that being said, that is it. We had the season 6 has officially been kicked off. We have our top 10 best. You guys will potentially see in that as as a post or a TikTok or a whatever sometime down the line. Potentially, I may also do a thing where I reveal all of your guys' top 10s and then build up to the combined one. But gentlemen, Thank you so much. I cannot thank you enough for coming on and getting this season, this year kicked off the best way possible. 2024, it's going to be an interesting year. Will it be as good as 2023? Who knows? But like I said, thank you all for coming on. As usual, we're going to start the other way. So, Mike, starting with you. Thanks for coming on, dude. Where can the good people follow you on the interwebs? Do you have any social media profiles or anything that you want to plug?
No, don't go to my Twitter account. Don't go to it.
Don't you mean your X account?
Yeah, X. Yeah, no, I don't want any people on that shit. I will just say this was the opposite of ass cancer in human form. So,
yes, that's good. That's good to hear at the very least.
Over, by the way.
Jeremiah, good to have you on, dude. Hopefully, like I said, we'll have
Thank
you
you
back
so
on
much.
for many more. Where
Sure.
can the good people follow you on the interwebs if you have any place that you want to plug, social media wise?
I don't know. You can go to my Instagram at JOSullivan329 if you want. Like, whatever.
This is great. This is the greatest. This is the greatest plug section ever. Everyone is just like, follow me
I
if
mean,
you want. Not
Go
really.
see me at the neighborhood playhouse. Like, I don't know. What am I?
That one. Yeah.
That's right. This episode has officially been sponsored by the Neighborhood Playhouse.
Neighborhood Playhouse.
Yeah, exactly. Jeremy, any social media profiles you want to plug at all?
I don't want any of you to fucking find me, but if you do, go on Letterboxd. Jeremy Nunez. My profile photo is Rev Run at the end of Run's house, texting in his bathtub. So if you want to find me there. I think my Twitter is linked on there somewhere, but other than that, don't look for me.
This is great. I love it. This is the only episode that you're gonna see. It's like, yeah, whatever you do not follow us. And Dustin, like I said, my ride or die, my go-to. Where can the good people follow you on the interwebs?
YouTube.com/Mr. G Movie Reviews. They can follow me on Letterboxd, Dustin Mason, Duster Rhymes. They can follow me on Twitter, Duster. Yeah.
Absolutely. And of course, guys, follow me with everything going on at Movie Nerd Reviews, at Official Talkin TV podcast, if I can speak. Subscribe to us on YouTube, on Twitch, on X, which I was simultaneously live streaming to this morning. I will be amazed to see if that actually lasted the full 2 hours. But whatever the case, like I said, you guys know the drill at this point. This episode will be available on Spotify and Apple Podcasts tomorrow, kicking off our 6th season. And be sure to tune in next week for the top 10 TV shows of 2023, which I'll be breaking down with Eli Holicky and Luke of Luke Reviews. But in the meantime, from myself, from Jeremy, from Jeremiah, from Dustin, from Mike, I promise I didn't forget your name on purpose. 12 scenes in a short film. We're halfway there. And watch more fucking movies. We'll see you guys in the new year for season 6. Take care.